Now I request a guest from Meghalaya. He is Mr. Frederick Kharkongor, Urban Development Secretary of Meghalaya. But you must be wondering why an Urban Development Secretary is in a school section. He has a passion for education, and he has been Education Secretary Commissioner in the state of Meghalaya. And he has done a lot of work there, and he has won awards both nationally and internationally. And I request Frederick Kharkongor to come on stage and share his vision on how to, whatever they are doing in the state of Meghalaya and what can be done in future. A big round of applause for him.
A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. You must be wondering why an Urban Development Secretary is here in the school session. But actually, this happened because when we were in Hyderabad, we had the opportunity to talk about urban development, and on the sidelines with Mr. Souvik and Mr. Ravi Gupta, we talked about education. And then from the team at ILETS, they said, we're going to have a World Education Congress, and why don't you come and speak for a few minutes? So I must thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be here and to share a few experiences on school education. It's an assignment which I had about a year ago before I switched tracks. So I'll be sharing with you about what we did or what we tried to do, or we're still trying to do. It's a work still in progress for the improvement in the quality of in fact, mathematics learning in the primary classes. It's a project which we undertook on a collaborative mode by the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, a program of school education, in 2014-16. And the main aim, the main three principles that drove this project forward are to empower teachers, champion innovation, and to drive student outcomes. I'm happy to share with you that this program, after it was assessed, was submitted to the Commonwealth for Good Practice Awards 2015, and out of 89 submissions, 25 were further shortlisted, and out of 25, another 10. Out of the 10, we were fortunate to be one of the projects that, that were shortlisted. And I'll tell you about the journey, how it all started. When we first started, it was like a CSR project kind of thing. We started in only 250 schools, but the results bore fruit. The then Minister of HRD, Ms. Smriti Irani, wrote to our Chief Minister and said that I have found that the state has taken some innovative programs on maths learning in early and primary grades. So this is a feature we will commend. So this got and things triggering from the Ministry of HRD. They sent a joint review mission team and studied the project. They thought that perhaps it could be escalated to other parts of the district and maybe even get government funding. So basically, what are the objectives of this program? It is about new pedagogic practices, introduction of practices for the development of number sense using specially designed teaching learning materials for classes 1 and 2, which are the foundation classes, and which are the most challenging areas. As we all know, maths continues to be a bugbear for children at the young age. And it is maths, it is the fear of maths that drives students away from learning in a sense. So the challenge was how to bring about a new dimension of learning so that we are able to replace fear with interest and with passion. Then we concentrated quite a bit on teachers' development, how to improve the capability of the teachers through various workshops, and try to introduce gamification, how to involve games in the teaching and learning of maths. And also another point was that it was multi-grade learning. It was not chapter-based, like in the traditional system of teaching. It was not chapter-based, but it was concept-based. We at that time had 12,481 teachers and about 2 lakh plus students, and we had a number of about 5,106 village communities. Then we zeroed it down to a pilot basis of 38,000 students, 1,057 teachers, and 1,057 schools. So this was the small scale with which we started. And it was initially piloted in one part of the state, one region of the state. We have the western region and the eastern region. So 250 schools in each of the 5 districts were targeted, consisting of various blocks and clusters. We have very challenging terrain in Meghalaya. For those of you who are outside India and also within India, you know that the northeast is a region which is very beautiful, yet has very challenging demographic as well as logistic problems. Some of the glimpses are these. This is school children crossing a living root bridge in Meghalaya. We don't have, we have these very unique, living root bridges. They're not made of cement or of roads, but they're the roots of the trees which are branched from one side to the other, and we have school children crossing over this path. Then we have coal mining areas. So we have very challenging logistic problems there. So what are these new concepts that were introduced? First of all, we tried to develop number sense using specially designed teaching learning materials in classes 1 and 2, and also appropriate multigrade learning. And we extensively use these kind of maths kits. The first one is Ganit Mala, numbering, which actually aimed at teaching children to count from 1 to 100, combining quantity and order, structured counting, reverse counting. Then we have this Ganit Mala, which was consolidating the number sense up to 200, then understanding the sequence of numbers up to 200, then up to from 100 to 200, location of various numbers on a number line, so that we develop an intuitive basis for place value. Then we had these MAN cards, which were cards which help children to in their numerical recognition, and their ability to see numbers in an expanded form, patterns in numbers, place value, mental addition, as well as subtraction. And then we had these empty number cards, which help children for numerical recognition with meaning. Then we had something called rangometry, which helped children to develop shape sense, unstructured counting, small addition, angles for creative introduction to geometry, and fun through shapes and stories. We all know that children love stories, they love songs, they love music. So if we introduce mathematics through song, through color, through learning, it will have more of a retention value. It will ignite more interest. It will make the job of the teachers also easier. In fact, much easier, because it's like they're engaging the children in a game. They're telling them through shapes, through stories, through little modes of engagement. Then we had number ball, which had number sense up to 10, numbering combination up to 10, to trigger number play. And then we had this game called Searching for 100, which automized small number additions as well as subtractions. Then we had games of snakes and ladders to help children imbibe subtraction and learning. So this is some glimpses of the children doing these games, how to help them connect a sense of quantity and order before actual numerical recognition. Then number sense, with sufficient counting experiences, children were able to start doing the counting, so that becomes a foundation for them to be able to do addition and subtraction much better. Then we had activities with structured materials to help them to develop mental number line for doing addition and subtraction, and also to help them to postpone that algorithm to avoid that development of maths phobia which we had just mentioned. Then, as I'm again repeating, it was multi-grade learning. So we transited from the normal chapter-based transaction to more learner-based transactions, combining elements into the activities as per the differential needs of both the older as well as the younger learners in various different grades. Now, older children were able to build a platform and were able to write and recognize the numerals. Then the more competent children were encouraged to, discuss with the younger children on these various concepts. Then there was this little, gamification that was encouraged, how to decorate, an ice cream cone by throwing dice and by counting the pieces. So various concepts of maths were introduced through a gamification mode, so that it helps the younger children to consolidate their number sense. Then they were taught as to how many pieces were used in total, how much each color, which was more, first estimating and then checking. So this also gave opportunity to the older ones. Then we concentrated quite substantially on practice-based capability development. There were intensive workshops with various teachers at the cluster level, and mind you, we're talking about public schools, we are talking about village schools in the last mile, in the remotest areas. So a lot of hand-holding of teachers, a lot of training was required. So there was a lot of time and effort and and resources which was invested on training of the teachers and the various resources of the cluster, of the block, as well as of the village schools. So these were some of the teacher workshops that were there. Now you'll ask me what was the relevance of this program. This practice, this new paradigm, it basically addressed problems faced in the context of the prevailing low learning environment. We know that, especially when it comes to quality, we have succeeded in terms in terms of the access. There were 3 pillars for Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. One was access, one was equity, and one was quality. In terms of equity, we don't have much of a problem because there is respect for gender. Women have an equal say in the education space. In terms of access, we had huge enrollment. We had 93% access. Most of the villages were indeed covered by schools. However, when it comes to quality, quality is a challenge that for us in Meghalaya as well as the rest of India, we continue to grapple with. So there was a low learning environment. So this was a strategy, how to address this low learning environment and how to make a paradigm shift so that more quality, more interest, more engagement comes between the learner and the taught, between the student and the teacher. So we tried to do it through gamification, making learning more fun-filled as well as interesting. And we must realize that over 90% of the students in our state were tribal and more comfortable with stories, music, and activities rather than through abstraction the way that normally math is taught. So this whole teaching learning approach through these very interesting maths kits, through these very interesting concepts, was an effort to make maths learning more fun as well as interactive. So it also allowed for the play of imagination, use of colors and games and stories in a far more effective way. And not only concentrating on the traditional methods, but also in developing math skills so that mechanical rules at the expense of understanding and intelligent application were also addressed. Then also concepts like fraction, decimal, shapes, and playway methods were also other concepts that were introduced through these new strategies so that there was more enhanced student learning as well as teacher interaction. So the whole classroom learning was in fact enriched. We had a number of workshops for the teachers, as I just shared with you, on the importance of the idea of number sense, importance of the context, conceptual understanding, on the importance of regularly doing activities. Then we also had this concept of nodal schools. Since we were dealing with far-flung areas and logistically difficult as well as challenged areas, we had nodal schools which were the nodes through which this entire new paradigm was transacted. So there were nodal schools in which the Jorugyan team would demonstrate these new practices and how to roll out an activity, how to connect the story, conceptual understanding as well as activity, how to initiate dialogue and ask leading questions, how to have monthly plans to assess the learning levels of the children within that cluster, within that area through these nodal schools. So the classroom interaction typically changed to a community of learners led by a teacher. So the teacher began to relearn, as your as your subtext is that you have to reimagine learning for the next generation. So he tried to lead through a dialogue and through inquiry, through shared ideas for the various mathematical ideas. So because the teacher plays and continues to play a live, he continues to play a very pivotal role in a live active thinking classroom, how to adjust activities and how to suit the needs of the various learners. We had this dialogue system based development so that this pedagogy becomes more enriched. And there was also a system whereby monitoring and review systems of the various concepts of the teachers, that was also done periodically to assess, to gauge up to what level the various absorption capacities differed and what needed to be done to tweak it. I'll just rush through this. So there was a GRM team that came and assessed this program. GRM is the Joint Review Mission of the Ministry of Human Resource Development. They saw that it was working in 3,000 schools. So they decided that why not escalate it to another 4,000 schools which were in the western region of the state. So currently, right now, there are about 7,000 schools which are implementing this new system. And we were also told that states like Punjab and Bihar were also looking at this system for their respective schools. And it also synced with the with the Bade Bharat Abhiyan, which was launched by the HRD, and so that there was interest in foundational stages for maths. I'm also happy to share with you that in the 2017 governor speech this year, this Jorogyan project, which at the moment covers 7,000 schools, found a mention in the governor's speech also. I'll just quickly rush through it. And it was cost effective. It only cost about 31 lakhs when we did the first phase, mainly on training and a little bit on the maths kits. And these kits can be used for about 10 years. They can be even manufactured and developed locally. So there's not much investment there. And you are, in any case, getting TLM support from the Ministry of Human Resource Development. So it's a cost-effective approach to deal with, the problems of, maths challenges that are there. I've left the sector for more than a year. So what I'm sharing is from my memory about a year ago. But I must thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity at this forum to share on this very unique project. And I've come more to learn from all the various interesting examples that that are being shared in this two-day conference. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Mr. Frederick Roy Kharkongor, Urban Secretary of Meghalaya. You are here to learn, and we are here to learn from you, sir. It's about this entire motto of WES is knowledge sharing. We are trying to create this knowledge sharing platform where all the minds come together and discuss and deliberate upon various aspects of school education, higher education, technical education, where the policy makers, decision makers from schools and universities and the industry leaders, they come together and discuss. Thanks a lot, and it will be my honor to hand over the speaker memento to sir. Can we have the memento with us, please? Sir. And ILITS and Digital Learning Magazine will look forward to do a conference in the state of Meghalaya under your leadership.